A lot of people were determined to help this black man be successful because of what had happened to him.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need no 26-year-old girl. You don't need no 36-year-old girl.
I do.
I'm going to be open, transparent, and defend myself because this isn't right. This is all being orchestrated by Tony Busby.
I want you to go for the 4th round. You looking at her like, bitch, listen, I need you want some money to go to Starbucks?
Yeah,
because I can't go no further. But
not a good look that you do what the did to me.
Shannon Sharpe was just inches away from building a $100 million podcast empire until everything came crashing down. What looked like an unstoppable rise turned into a total media meltdown, triggered by a $50 million lawsuit that detonated his career like a bomb. Court filing didn't just make headlines. It unearthed a series of leaked text messages so explicit, so racially charged, even his most loyal fans were left speechless. Suddenly, the former NFL star turned media darling was no longer trending for hot takes or viral interviews. He was trending for all the wrong reasons. But here's where it gets even wilder. This wasn't entirely unexpected. Comedian and social critic D.L. Hughley had sounded the alarm years earlier. In an old interview, he warned that Sharpe was walking a dangerous tightrope, saying the ex-athlete had sold his soul to the very same Hollywood elites who Hughley claimed would eventually destroy him. According to DL, the fame, the money, and the access came with a price. Sharpe was no longer his own man. He was a pawn, whether he realized it or not. Now, with ESPN abruptly cutting ties and sources whispering about so-called blackmail vaults, full of even more damaging material, people are starting to connect the dots. Was this an organic scandal? Or was Shannon Sharpe set up to fail by forces far more powerful than a single lawsuit? The real question isn't just whether Sharpe is guilty or innocent, it's who pulled the strings behind the scenes to bring him down when he was about to level up. Because in Hollywood, silence is currency, power is protected, and when someone speaks too freely, they get handled harshly. DL Hughley didn't mince words when it came to Shannon Sharpe. In a scathing dig, he dubbed the Hall of Famer Wendy Williams with a bench press, mocking the over-the-top drama and celebrity gossip that had turned Club Shay Shay from a podcast into a cultural spectacle. It wasn't just a joke, it was a surgical strike on the very identity Sharpe had built. The implication? Sharpe wasn't just interviewing people. He was pandering for virality, chasing headlines the way tabloid hosts do. And that punchline hit even harder in hindsight. But DL wasn't the only one sounding alarms. Cat Williams' now legendary episode of Club Shay Shay was filled with more than just comedy feuds and jaw-dropping hot takes. Hidden between the viral moments and savage burns were eerie clues, warnings that flew under the radar at the time but now feel chillingly relevant. At one point, Cat looked Sharpe dead in the eye and said, "You having an unnatural allegiance to losers." Fans laughed, moved on, and clipped it for memes. But in the context of today's scandal, those words land differently. Because Cat wasn't just talking trash. He was hinting at something far darker. The implication was that Sharpe had already surrendered something. His independence, his integrity, maybe even his soul. Cat seemed to suggest that Sharpe wasn't just part of the industry machine. He was owned by it. And in that world, loyalty isn't optional. You either toe the line or the machine turns on you. Suddenly, what once seemed like rambling now sounds like prophecy. If Sharpe was being controlled by unseen hands, the question becomes, what happens when a puppet tries to cut its strings? The scandal ignited like a powder keg the moment 19-year-old Gabriella Gabby Zuniga filed a bombshell lawsuit against Shannon Sharpe, accusing the former NFL Hall of Famer and media star of assault, coercion, and disturbing sexual behavior. And the fallout wasn't just immediate, it was catastrophic. Within hours, social media lit up with reactions ranging from disbelief to disgust, while Sharpe's legal team scrambled to regain control of the narrative. In a desperate attempt to flip public perception, his lawyers released a trove of explicit text messages, insisting they would prove everything between Shannon and Gabby was consensual. But the contents of those messages did far more harm than good. These weren't flirtatious late-night exchanges or innocent relationship drama. They were graphic, deeply unsettling, and alarmingly specific. Texts reportedly contained references to collars, choking, being called degrading names, and requests involving baby gravy, a vulgar euphemism that sent shockwaves across social media. What Sharpe's team intended as proof of consensual kink quickly morphed into Exhibit A in the court of public opinion. The sheer intensity and vulgarity of the messages painted a chilling portrait, not of a consensual adult dynamic, but of a disturbing, racially charged fetish between a powerful 56-year-old man and a teenager barely out of high school. And that's where the backlash truly erupted, because in situations like this, context is everything. Texts alone were jaw-dropping, but the deeper issue wasn't just what was said. It was who said it, who received it, and under what conditions. This wasn't two consenting adults with equal footing in a private relationship. This was a legendary sports figure, wealthy, influential, and decades older, allegedly paying a 19-year-old woman to participate in degrading, violent role-play that leaned heavily on racial power dynamics. And if that wasn't bad enough, the timing of it all made it feel even more calculated or orchestrated. Shannon Sharpe was reportedly mere days, possibly hours, away from finalizing a $100 million deal that would have catapulted his podcast empire into the stratosphere. Multiple insiders have confirmed that negotiations were nearing completion when suddenly the leaks began. First the texts, then the audio. The most damning piece of evidence? A spine-chilling audio clip allegedly featuring Sharpe's voice snarling, "You don't have a choice." The moment it dropped online, public reaction turned from curiosity to outrage. The audio didn't sound flirtatious or playful. It sounded forceful, cold, and deeply inappropriate. Critics pounced, fans recoiled. Civil rights groups called for investigations. And Sharpe's camp? They insisted the clip had been maliciously edited, chopped and spliced to portray him as a predator. But once that kind of clip hits the internet, it doesn't matter how much editing you claim. The damage was irreversible. Even worse, the narrative took an even darker turn when it was revealed that Gabriella had reportedly turned down a $10 million settlement offer. That's right, she allegedly walked away from a life-changing payout. And immediately, the internet started asking the most important question of all. What could she possibly have that's even worse than what's already been leaked? Speculation spiraled fast. Some suggested Gabby might be holding a video, one so explosive that it would make the current audio clip seem tame by comparison. Others began floating darker theories, that Gabby might not be acting alone, and that her case could be part of a much larger operation aimed at toppling Sharpe just as he was reaching unprecedented financial and media power. In other words, a setup. Then came the wild card, Maze. The rapper-turned-podcaster poured gasoline on the fire during a recent episode of his show, raising eyebrows with one line in particular. "This ain't just about Gabby, there's a pimp in the background." Was he joking? Maybe. Was it coded language pointing to something real? Possibly. What's clear is this: that comment struck a nerve with listeners. It hinted at what many were already thinking, that this lawsuit, this scandal, this entire meltdown wasn't just a story of a fallen celebrity. It was a hit job. Welcome to Hollywood's ugliest open secret, the blackmail vaults. For decades, whispers have circulated about the hidden safes, physical and digital, where the entertainment elite stash their most explosive leverage. We've seen it before: the alleged tapes in Diddy's compound, the infamous evidence locker reportedly guarded by R. Kelly's entourage. These aren't conspiracy theories anymore, they're patterns. And now, insiders say Shannon Sharpe's downfall may have come from the same shadowy playbook. Here's the theory gaining traction. Sharpe's downfall wasn't spontaneous, it was orchestrated. For years, Shannon built his brand, hustled his way into sports media royalty, and finally stood at the doorstep of a reported $100 million podcast deal. That kind of money doesn't just buy freedom, it threatens power structures, signals independence. And for some in the industry, that's dangerous. So when his deal was almost signed, the so-called vaults suddenly cracked open. Leaked texts, compromising audio, a lawsuit with impeccable timing. Too precise to be coincidence. Too devastating to be random. And the whispers? They point straight to the gatekeepers, those elusive forces that reward loyalty but destroy defiance. Shannon was once their rising star, a charismatic, eloquent black man who crossed over from sports into mainstream media. But critics say he's sold out, traded authenticity for access, aligning himself with networks and executives that never truly had his back. The second he outlived his usefulness, or worse, threatened to operate on his own terms, the very people he cozied up to pulled the rug out from under him. Even ESPN's exit speaks volumes. Officially, they claim it was Shannon's decision to step away, but sources behind the scenes paint a different picture. The moment those tapes hit social media, Disney execs made one call, and Sharpe was done. No appeals, no second chances. Just cold, quiet removal. It wasn't just damage control. It felt like orders from higher up, an industry-wide memo: get out while you still can. Then there's the eerie silence of Stephen A. Smith, Sharpe's most high-profile colleague and supposed ally. The same Stephen A. who went full throttle defending Jay-Z amid the Diddy scandal has been nearly mute on Shannon's implosion. No tweets, no impassioned rants. Just vague commentary and subtle distancing. Why? Because the industry protects its crown jewels. Jay-Z is connected, insulated, untouchable. But Shannon, for all his success, he's still seen as disposable. Pawn, not a king. And if the blackmail vault theory holds water, this isn't just a career collapse. It's a warning, a signal to others. Step out of line, challenge the system, and the tapes will surface. No matter how famous you are, no matter how loyal you were. Closing call to action. So the million-dollar question remains, did Shannon Sharpe really just stumble into scandal, or did he cross the wrong people in a world where loyalty is currency and silence is survival? On the surface, it looks like a simple fall from grace, a lawsuit, some damning leaks, and a career in flames. But scratch beneath the surface, and this mess starts to look like something deeper. Was this karma finally cashing in after years of messy interviews, controversial commentary, and quietly rumored backroom favors? Or was Shannon targeted, set up to fall the moment he became more valuable broken than successful? Because let's be honest, in Hollywood, the real players don't sit in front of the camera. They move behind the scenes, pulling strings, protecting their empires, and choosing, very carefully, who gets to win and who gets sacrificed. And when the heat gets too high, or when a celebrity outgrows their leash, it's not the power brokers who get exposed. It's the talent, the face, the star. In this case, it's Shannon Sharpe, publicly torched while the true architects of the machine remain untouched, watching from the shadows. So what's really going on here? Is this a case of a man who flew too close to the sun and got burned, or one more example of how disposable even the most successful black men can be when they stop playing the game by the rules? Because what's happening to Shannon doesn't just feel like a scandal, it feels like a warning, a message. And it begs the question, how many others are skating on thin ice, just one leak away from total destruction? We want to hear your take. Was this downfall well-deserved? Just deserts for years of controversy and unchecked ego? Or do you believe Sharpe was framed, set up by a system that builds stars just to tear them down? Drop your thoughts in the comments, framed or deserved. And don't go anywhere, because what we're about to reveal next could shake the industry to its core. Another celebrity, another lawsuit. And this time, it might not stop at just career damage, it could take down an entire network. Tap next. This rabbit hole goes deeper than you think.